Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Crypto News Podcast. It's your host, Matt Reidhead. We are buzzing as always. And folks, another Canadian on the show today. We love to see it. It's actually been a hot minute since we've had a Canadian on the show. Can't wait to get into this. Today we have the one and only Kyle Reidhead on the show today, co-owner and head of research at Milk Road, a leading crypto investment media company, and founder of Impact3, a crypto native marketing agency helping top protocols and brands in crypto grow. Kyle, welcome to the show, my friend. Pumped to have a fellow Canadian on. How you doing this lovely afternoon?
I'm great. And you know what? It's finally warm in Canada today. I'm getting ready after this to go to a patio for some beers. So
I love that.
I'm pretty pumped. It's a good Friday.
I love that, man. That is awesome. Again, super pumped to have you on here. Love having Canadians on. So many different ways to jump into this. Let's just start with our good old sort of macro dump, current market sentiment. We are recording on Friday, March 14th. This is going to air 6 days later on Thursday, the 20th. The market is an absolute shit show right now. You and I as Canadians, we have the orange man down south who 4 months ago, even 3 months ago, 2 months ago, Kyle, I loved because he pumped all of my bags. I'm sure he pumped your bags as well. But now he's going after us. He's telling us, hey, we're going to absorb you, make it the 51st state. He's chirping us, tariffs here, tariffs there. Then he's rescinding them. And he's not just screwing with us, he's screwing with the whole economy, because a lot of these CFOs for Fortune 500 companies, they do sort of run the economy where it's all about forecasting, and they can't forecast because they don't know the rules of engagement. And the orange man's sort of screwing things up. We got some shitty macro data coming in. You got tons of whales selling their crypto. What the heck is going on right now in the market?
Yeah, it's a big question, but I'll do my best to answer it here. Look, I think there's some short-term pain, but I actually think this is all good things. I know a lot of Canadians are upset. Even a lot of Americans probably are upset right now. I don't really think it's as bad as it seems, though. I do think we're going to be in a few months of kind of chop maybe. And essentially what's happening, at least my take on the market, is, well, there's sort of two parts to it. So back in December, we actually wrote a report to our pro subscribers and said we think a 30% pullback's coming. One, because they happen a lot in crypto, and when things get a bit euphoric like they were at the end of the year last year when Trump took off, or when he won, we kind of knew, like, hey, the sentiment doesn't make sense. We're getting too euphoric. But more, it was because liquidity. So in our opinion, markets in crypto and tech stocks, et cetera, they're all run by global liquidity. Global liquidity started to take a big pullback back in December. And so we kind of saw, hey, this pullback was coming. We didn't think it was going to be as big as a kind of growth scare of like what we're in right now. But my opinion right now is we're in a bit of a growth scare, and again, short-term pain for long-term gain. What I think is happening is the U.S. has like $9 trillion of debt that they need to refinance in basically in 2025. And unfortunately, 70% of that, I believe it is in the first half of the year. So it's like $7 trillion or something that they need to refinance. It's crazy.
That's wild.
And much of that comes because of what happened with COVID. They had to print a bunch of money, and at 4 or 5 years, they need to start refinance. Now, they can't pay off that debt. They're not profitable enough, obviously. And so they need to refinance it. And the problem is, when they first got this debt, rates were at basically zero. So it wasn't that big of a deal. Today, they're at 4.8% when he took office. And so I think the issue that Trump had when he came in, and I know everyone's blaming Trump for this stuff in the administration, is they came in with a big problem. And they were like, we need to fix this. We either refinance at, close to 5%, and we have big problems next year and the years down the road with the interest payments we got to pay on this debt, or we try to get interest rates down now. And the problem is the economy was doing quite well in December and January. So there was growth in the US, inflation was trending upwards. And so the Fed and unemployment wasn't that bad. So the Fed wasn't helping Trump. They're like, well, we're not going to lower rates. We don't need to. Everything's good. The economy is actually quite good. So we'll just keep rates here. And Trump can't go and force the Fed to lower rates. What he can do, though, is create a growth scare or a recession.
Play some chess.
Exactly. Yeah. Play some chess. And so I know everyone's like, oh my God, he's lost his mind. He's doing all this crazy stuff. In my opinion, what he's doing is he's trying to tank growth in the US. He's trying to tank inflation and trying to increase unemployment, which I know sucks for some people, but he's trying to cause a fake recession. I don't think he'll actually put us in the US in a recession because he doesn't want that on his resume. But ultimately, I think what he's trying to do is kind of do a fake out here. And the reason is, if he can get growth to go down and inflation to go down, well, that's going to bring down rates in the 10-year, and it's also going to let the Fed actually lower rates. And so if he was to try to create a recession, what would you do? Well, you'd send Elon and Doge after the federal employees to fire a bunch of people, right? That just skyrockets unemployment. Okay, he's done that. That also gives a scare to growth and scare to inflation. Okay, he's done that. I would do a bunch of tariffs to my biggest, trade partners and create a
Yeah.
global trade war, right? What does that do? Creates uncertainty in markets, slows down growth, lowers inflation, all the things, right? And then what else would I do? I'd get in a fight with Zelensky, the leader of Ukraine on national TV,
Yeah.
right? And I know this is a bit of a conspiracy theory, let's call it, but like ultimately, whether it's a conspiracy or not, whether he's mean to or not, it's working because growth is absolutely tanking in the US. Inflation is beginning to finally slow down, which we hadn't seen for months, and unemployment's ticking up. And so it's like all the things that are happening right now, although they're scary and they suck for markets short term, he's actually doing what's probably needed to get rates down and to get them down quite fast. So as much as this sucks and it makes sense to be probably out of markets for a little bit because I don't think we're low enough yet. So I think there's more pain to come potentially. I think in a few months from now, we're actually going to be set up in a really good place for the market to really climb later into the year and probably into 2026 as well. We're almost like resetting the business cycle halfway through the business cycle, which doesn't normally happen, but we're doing it where last time the business cycle was low, meaning growth was kind of on its way down, inflation was down. We were at 20K Bitcoin. Now we're at 80K and we're resetting the business cycle. So like to me, we've kind of just moved the base of the foundation of prices. And I think we have a lot of room to grow from here. Now, again, I think there's going to be a period of choppiness here and we might go a bit lower, but I don't think it's going to be for too long. And I don't think the bull market's over by any means.
I agree. Just with how many people have crypto finally FOM front of mind. And then of course, you have the BlackRocks, you have the $1 trillion financial institutions getting on board. You have, the myriad of ETFs coming on board. And we finally have, I don't want to say finally, but, you have your poly markets. And hopefully we will continue with the hundreds of billions of dollars that have been funded into crypto. It's like, hopefully we get some consumer facing apps soon, where we can finally get that mass adoption too. And that's something that I'd love to get into here with you, and that is your investment framework around the Fat App Thesis. I absolutely love this. Give us the riff on this.
Yeah, so this is a big one. First, just to set up even further, talking a little bit of macro, and this will kind of transition us into this Fat App Thesis as well, is there was a point there where, a lot of people were calling for this bull market to be done, early or at some point this year, right?
Yeah.
And one of the issues with that, or what would kind of suck, is regulatory environment changing, institutions being allowed to use crypto. And unfortunately, it looked like macro was going to kind of tip or end at this year. And so like we weren't going to have a bull market with all the regulation in place. And now with what's happening with Trump, we're kind of extending the bull market, in my opinion. And so we might actually get regulatory environment and a continued macro bull market, which is like really, really exciting. And part of that is we're starting to see that apps are allowed to do things with their tokens now, right? Like since Trump has taken office, all the lawsuits are now gone with all the biggest companies. Coinbase is now like integrating on-chain apps into their app. We've got token buybacks and fee switches being turned on and DeFi. Like a lot is happening in the app space finally that previously was not allowed. And so that's a big opportunity, just number one. But in terms of the Fat App Thesis, what this means essentially is for a long time in crypto, a lot of people have talked about the Fat Protocol Thesis, saying that, things like Ethereum and Solana, who are kind of at the bottom of the tech stack, are going to accrue a lot of the value. And while this was true in the early days when there was no apps, I think that that's actually flipping. And I think what we're about to move into is the Fat App Thesis, which is exactly how the internet works.
Yeah, same as Web 2. Yeah,
right.
Bang on.
If you think about where all the internet, where all the value accrues in the internet, it's to the applications, right? So it's to Facebook, it's to Google, it's to, Amazon, et cetera. And the reason is they have all the leverage because they have the users, right? So all the tech stacks below it, they have to fight like a commodity almost to lower prices to get Facebook to use their cloud service or to use their whatever tech stack underneath, right? And Facebook controls the prices, Amazon controls the prices, and Google controls the prices, not the infrastructure below it. And I think what we're seeing in the crypto world is a big change here. For a while, Ethereum controlled the prices. They had all the value, right? You wanted to move an NFT in 2021, it cost you $50 and you had no other choice, right? Didn't matter. Nowadays, all the L1s are beginning to fight to lower their prices. And same with the L2s. They're all trying to lower their prices so they can get more apps, they can get more users. And I think that trend is only going to continue, right? Ethereum lowering its prices, L2s lowering its prices, Solana, every day they're trying to get their prices lower. And we're going into a world now where L1s or block space, let's call it, is becoming commoditized. Everyone is launching their own chain, right? Whether it's Uniswap who's launching a chain or Athena or, whatever, the list goes on, Coinbase launching its own chain. And so the idea of having a chain is less, let's say, like premium these days, right? Because block space is abundant at this point. And so where the leverage is going in crypto is to those that actually have the users. And that could be the apps like the Aaves and the Uniswaps and the makers, or it could be the Coinbases and the Robinhoods, right? They actually have more users than any of them, and they really can control the prices. Because one of the best ways to kind of explain this thesis here is, let's take Coinbase, for example, obviously an app, and they have a lot of users. And so recently they integrated Morpho into their app. And so basically what Morpho is a way to lend your Bitcoin and you can get USDC. Now, what's cool about this, or what's interesting here, is Coinbase is using Morpho probably because they own a little bit of Morpho, but who has the leverage in that relationship? Coinbase has the users, so they could easily go to Aave and be like, hey, Aave, we'll use you guys if you do, you give us 50% discount to what Morpho's doing, right? And then Aave goes, sure, why would I not do that? And then they go back to Morpho and they create this like competition to lower prices, right? So the leverage goes to Coinbase, right? They can charge the fees that they want, they have the users, et cetera. And they can go and do this with Uniswap or Airdrome, and they can do this with Sky and Maker and whatever protocols they want because they own the users. Same with apps. For example, Uniswap, they can go and move from one chain to the next. Doesn't matter. As long as you use the Uniswap wallet or the Uniswap like front end, they can kind of move you to whatever want and kind of can control the user. And so now I think what's happening is we're finally starting to get real apps with real users, with real revenues. And that's starting to become where the leverage is going to be. And so I think what we're going to start to see is these apps start to make a shit ton of money. And the other cool thing, especially in the DeFi space or the on-chain world, is the apps that exist on-chain, they don't have a lot of employees. They don't have a lot of expenses, right? One of Maker's goals this year, for example, or Sky, is to have no expenses by the end of this year.
Lean.
Right? They run lean.
Yeah,
and so they can be extremely profitable, right? They have leverage to get revenue. They can run extremely lean. And now with Trump in office and all the lawsuits going away, they can start to use that profit to buy back their tokens, which is already happening with Sky. It's one of the best performers of the last 2 months, let's say. Everything is dumped, and Sky has actually done quite well. Aave, same thing. They've started to do this. And so I think we're going into a world now where these apps can start to generate a hell of a lot of revenue, have next to no expenses, and they have these very small tokens right now because there's not a lot of people allocated to them, and they can start to buy back those tokens. And so right now, most of the industry is like 80% allocated to L1s, maybe even 90%, especially if you include Bitcoin, and like 10% allocated to apps. And I think over the coming years, this isn't a thing that's going to happen immediately, but over the next few months to years, we're going to start to see a lot of value and revenue in this space going to the apps and not the blockchains. And so I think there's a bit of a mismatch right now where everyone is allocated over here, but that's going to change. And so we're starting to, at least in our investment portfolio, change over and try to figure out how do we allocate more to the apps that we think are going to generate value and generate revenue and buy back their tokens, because we think that's going to be a big narrative in the future. Is it going to be this year? Not sure. It seems like it's already starting to play out, so maybe it will be, but I think that's going to be the next big thing in this space.
I love that. Great rip there. Normally we have CEOs and co-founders and C-suite execs, VPs on the pod of companies. And obviously you have a company as well, but it's not a, public facing crypto company with a coin. You're in the investment game, which I absolutely love. So we can actually talk some price predictions here. Because normally if, I can't ask a CEO of a company, hey dude, what's, in 3 months, what do you think the price of your coin's going to be? They tell me to fuck off and, go fly a kite. But with you, I can ask that. You brought up two big ones in Solana and Ethereum. I dumped most of my ETH. I have a very, very small ETH position present day. I didn't do a good job at dumping Solana. What do you think about Solana long term? I think as you and I are recording, it's at about $1.30, give or take. Heck, less than 6 weeks ago, I think it was at, 290, 300, 300. Yeah, which is absolutely insane. In hindsight, looking back, that was clearly pretty overvalued. But again, when you look at the metrics, and I follow all the Solana people on Twitter, every single day we see the most volume last month Solana, most revenue Solana, most DAU Solana. Solana wins literally across the board, almost everything. Price prediction time. Do you think ETH has more bleeding to go? I think present day we're back above the 2K mark. We might be just a little low. A lot of people are saying we could, get under 1,500. And then for Solana, I still think Solana is a little undervalued at 130. I think, we could see a little more pain, but I do think that would be a pretty vicious and quick rip back up to the 200s. What's your sort of price predictions on both of those coins?
Are we talking short term or long term?
Give me both.
Give you both? Okay.
Give me the Milk Road thesis here.
So in the short term, I think we're definitely oversold on both of them. So if I was to pull up a chart and you look at Solana, it has touched this like 120 mark.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, probably like 8 times in the last almost like year and a half, right?
Yeah.
And it never really goes below it. And so I remember last year saying, hey, if it hits 120, you buy, you buy, you buy. And the fact that we're back here now,
Wild.
a whole year later when Solana is a whole different thing, is nuts. And so I think it's an amazing buy right here. Ethereum, look, I know it has struggled and hasn't done as well as everyone had hoped. I mean, to be fair, 2023, it still went up over 100%. 2024, it was up like 50, 60%. Like, these aren't terrible numbers. I know they're terrible for crypto, but like in the grand scheme of things, it's not that bad. But I think also around that 2000 mark has been the bottom for ETH for kind of the same time frame I talked to Solana. And so that's kind of a bottom number. Now we've been below it for a little while here, but I think that gets repriced and goes back up at least to kind of like 4K whenever we get our next kind of momentum. The only thing is short term, I don't know that this happens. And the reason I say that is I don't think we're out of the weeds just yet. I think Trump's probably got a few more things up his sleeve to like tank markets a little bit further.
Yeah.
I'm expecting Bitcoin to hit lower 70s. It hasn't done it yet. Right now, it's just kind of in no man's land at its current price. It's like one support level was 91,000. We broke below that.
Yeah.
The next thing is low 70s, and it hasn't hit that yet. So I kind of think we see that at some point, maybe this month or next. We might not. So like, who knows? I mean, Sailor's, just backing up the truck and buying billions every day. So like, it's just nuts.
You see that $21 billion.
21 billion. Yeah, it's crazy. So you never know. Maybe it doesn't hit it. So I think right now is a good time. And we've kind of said to our pro community, like, now is a good time to start dollar cost averaging in.
Yeah.
Right. We were saying back in December, like, I'm not buying here. If anything, you should be de-risking here. Now we're saying, I think, you don't need to put it all in today because I think we might go lower. But ultimately, I think it's a good time to be buying over the next little bit here. And then like, for the rest of the cycle, let's say, and when I say cycle, I don't mean these like crypto cycles. I mean the business cycle or the liquidity cycle. I think, we're going to probably top out somewhere into early to mid 2026 now before we go into some kind of bear market. I don't think it's going to be as bad as the bear markets we've seen before. So like using the word cycle might not make sense anymore, but I think we could see Solana hit, 500 plus. And I think ETH's a tough one. The thing's obviously valued at, what is it, like 300 billion right now, or it's probably less today. I don't know. So it takes a lot more for it to get its momentum, and it's got a lot of competition, but ultimately I'm still bullish on ETH. I think it goes above 5K, 7K. Like, it's going to get up there at some point if we get animal spirits back in this market, right? There is a chance we're going to go into this long bear market. A lot of people are calling for that. I don't really think it's going to happen. And so I think we're going to be much higher in ETH and SOL by the end of this year and probably moving into 2026. So I think they're both good buys right now, to be honest.
I love that. You and I are completely in agreement on both those things. And folks, the best part of Kyle's last riff there was DCA in, guys. Like, don't try to time the bottom and snag SOL at 115. Like, if you can get SOL at 130, like, come on. It's so dumb to just not.
Yeah. And also understand like where we are in the cycle. The thing is, we have so many new people that came in, in December because of Trump, right? And they all expect 10Xs today. And I'm like, if you wanted a 10X, you needed to be in crypto in 2023 at the bottom of the bear market, right? Like, we put out a call to buy Solana at $20 back in like, I don't know what it was, like September of 2023. And so everyone that bought that, this dip means nothing to them. They don't care at all, right? Like, we're still up, whatever that is, 6X or something. And so like, it's all good. And there's a 10X. Are you going to get a 10X in like Solana or Ethereum or basically anything today?
Probably not.
I don't know. That's pretty tough unless you're like gambling over in the meme coins world. So like, you got to manage your expectations right now. If you can grab a 2, 3, 4X in the next year, that's amazing, right? Like, that's incredible. So like, people just need to manage their expectations. You can't expect to come in late cycle into crypto and 10X. That's just, you're only going to get wrecked and you're going to end up holding your bag when the bear market comes.
Well said. And guys, just a little silver lining in that. If you invest in the public markets like Kyle and myself do as well, finding a 2X is not easy in the public markets. You need to be really good to find a 2-bagger. In crypto, 2-baggers grow on trees. You just need a little bit of patience. You need to do your research. You need to listen to the Crypto News podcast, and you need to subscribe to Milk Road, and you will find those 2-baggers. So guys, if you want a 2-bagger, you know where to find it. It's really not that difficult. Have a little patience, have some conviction, DCA in. There's some really good prices. It's like going to the grocery store and everything's on sale right now. We'll leave it with that before the ad read, and we will get back to the show where Kyle is on fire, and we will keep buzzing. Until then, huge shout out to Prime XBT, longtime friends and longtime sponsors of the Crypto News podcast. We love the team at Prime XBT as they offer a robust trading system for both beginners and professional traders. It doesn't matter if you're a rookie or a vet, you can easily design and customize your layouts and widgets to best fit your trading style. PrimeXBT is also running an exclusive promo for listeners of the Crypto News Pod. Use the promo code CryptoNews50, that's CryptoNews50, all one word, to receive 50% of your deposit credited to your trading account. Again, that's CryptoNews50, all one word, to receive 50% of your deposit credited to your trading account. And now back to the show with Kyle. Coinbase. We got to jump into coin here. And again, I usually, normally we don't talk on the show. It's, it's more like a little bit of market sentiment, and then we jump into the guest company, because again, very fortunate to have so many incredible guests who come on and building incredible companies. If I'm invested in that company, I always let people know. And yes, I do have Bitcoin, I do have Ethereum, I do have Solana, and I do have Coinbase, which we are about to talk about. I got into Coinbase relatively early, had some Coinbase calls. You told your community to buy coin at $38. It went parabolic, and you still think Coinbase is going to be worth $1 trillion by 2030. You and I are also in agreement to this. You have to look at market. You have to look at the history of the markets, and Coinbase is the equivalent, in my opinion, to like a Facebook or a Meta rather, where it's like they are the leader in the next wave of a social consumer app. And the whole social part is not the gambling, but the gamifying of investing, and the leader in North America for crypto. I think this is going to happen. And I'd love for you to go on a nice riff here and tell us why you think Coinbase will be worth a big trillion in 2030.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, think about the app thesis that I just talked about at the beginning of this episode, and we're going to apply that to Coinbase. The main thing is I completely agree in terms of like you saying it's kind of the Facebook or whatever. What I compare it to is actually Apple. I think we're moving into this world where people are moving on chain, and they're going on chain because they want to invest in financial assets, because they want to do, social fi, they want to do prediction markets, whatever it is they want to do. You're moving on chain so that you can get your assets on chain and do things permissionlessly. And Coinbase right now is, if you think about Apple when the internet first came, Apple had their brand in kind of everything. It was like in the internet, the early days, a lot of people did music, right? And Apple kind of pioneered that with iTunes, right? So you had your MacBook at the time and your iPod, and then you had iTunes.
Yeah.
And then they sort of reinvented themselves, right? And they destroyed their old business model with the iPod and iTunes, and they created an iPhone, and they created Apple Music, right? And then it was also like everything you did on the internet, you could do it in the brand of Apple, right? So you could use Safari, you could use your iPhone, you had AirPods, or the white headphones back in the day with you have your Apple Watch. They're doing it with hardware devices, but even they do it online too, right? With Apple TV and Apple Music and iCloud, and the list goes on and on and on, right? And so they kind of exactly. They had an ecosystem, and they built great products with it, but more importantly, they connected it all together. So it was very, very easy UX for people to do anything on the internet, right? Even text messaging, right? Like how many people are stuck using an iPhone because they have a group chat with buddies and they want it to be blue, not green, right? And so like they found a way to like be a part of everything, onboard people onto the internet, and create a really good UX around that where you never really want to leave. Like I don't ever want something that's not a MacBook or something that's not an iPhone, because I love airdropping and moving the things on my phone to my computer, right? Like it's just so seamless that they all work together. And what I see Coinbase doing is essentially that. So Coinbase has their app with something like 10 million active users currently, right? And that's an incredible business. They're doing a great job there, but they're looking at the future, right? What's next? Well, they know people want to go on chain. So what do? They created Coinbase Wallet, right? Then what do? They created Base. And now they have this sort of innovation flywheel happening where they're probably the most successful chain right now outside of maybe Solana. But it looks like they're about to pass Solana in a lot of metrics as well. And so everything they touch and everything they do, they succeed at. They've got their own chain now. They've got their own wallet. They've got their own stable coin because they own, I don't know, like 40 or 50% of Circle, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then they have kind of the top app in North America. And what are they beginning to do? They're beginning to integrate all those things, right? So they have Morpho, which was built on Base. They invested in Morpho. Morpho became a thing, built on Base. Now they've integrated Morpho into their Coinbase app. And so what do they do here? They own the thing that's allowing for Bitcoin loans, right? The Bitcoin loans come through their product, CBBTC, and all the transactions that happen on Base, which they create revenue from, and it creates a smart wallet, which is their smart wallet. So they control that entire UX, but for the consumer, all they know is they have Bitcoin. They don't know anything about CBBTC or Base or Morpho. All they know is they can loan, and what can they get? A dollar in the form of USDC, which they also get revenue from, right? So you can see from that one integration, they've got 7 or 6 different touch points on that and multiple ways to generate revenue from that. And so I think soon they're going to do the same thing with maybe Aerodrome or Uniswap, probably Aerodrome because they own part of that too, because they want more assets on Coinbase app. And right now with the regulatory environment, it's kind of tough for them to figure out, what can they do there. So if they just bring a DEX and they integrate it into their app, same thing. Now they have access to every token, and it's done through an app that's built on Base again. And so they have the same sort of situation. I think they're going to keep doing this. They're going to keep integrating on-chain apps into Coinbase. And now you have this seamless, beautiful experience in Coinbase app where you can start to interact and do everything on chain. And if there's something that they don't offer there, there's an easy way to get Coinbase Wallet. And so now they control the on-chain experience as well, right? This is very similar to how Apple started to do this. Now, where do they go from here? I don't know, but I imagine they're not just going to do crypto. They're going to start bringing in like tokenized gold and tokenized stocks, right? Tokenized stocks, they've talked about a ton. That's definitely coming. Again, that'll be built on Base, integrated into Coinbase app, right? So they're going to kind of do the Robinhood model, which is let's take all financial assets and throw it into one app. And I think they're going to do that, but they're going to do it all on chain, on their own chain, and integrate it in. And so they're really leading the way there. And it seems like whatever use case comes next, Coinbase finds a way to get in front of it and be a part of it and brand it as their own, right? Like originally it was just you had to move fiat into crypto. And so Bitcoin, right? They were amazing at that. Then they realized there was a bunch of new assets coming with Ethereum, et cetera.
Yeah.
They were first to do that. Then it was stablecoins is the best use case. Okay, they've got stablecoins going and it's the fastest growing stablecoin in crypto. And so the list goes on and on and on. And really when you think about what this means is their competitors are things like Robinhood, right? Where they want to compete with Robinhood or they want to compete with other exchanges. And because they have their hands in so many different things across the tech stack, Coinbase could remove, if they wanted, trading fees right now at Coinbase. And it wouldn't matter because they still can make trading fees on Base, or they can make revenues from their stablecoin, right?
Tons of moats. Yeah,
exactly. Tons of moats and tons of
place.
leverage to monetize in different ways. So they can be very agile with how the market works and beat competitors' pricing because they can monetize on a different end of it, which again, this is how Apple worked, this is how Amazon worked, et cetera. And I think Coinbase has just an incredible team, an incredible lead on really anyone else, at least in the US, to do this. And they're starting to scale out to other countries. And so I just think as the world moves on chain, there's just nobody that is better positioned to capitalize that than Coinbase.
Yeah.
Yes, Robinhood is also doing a really good job at this. But when I compare the two, it's like Coinbase is crypto native. And so they think and they can see what's coming next. Robinhood is just like they're trying to catch up. They're trying to do the things that Coinbase has already done. And they can do a great job of it because they have a lot of users. And so they also are a great investment as well. Like I'm very bullish on Robinhood. But Coinbase is just like well ahead. They're like an internet native company versus like Walmart trying to compete with Amazon and like and start an online commerce. Like Walmart is doing good at that now, but it took them so many years. Amazon was way ahead of them because they were internet native, right? So that's what I think of Coinbase with this kind of on-chain world. And so I think they're just going to continue to print, continue to do well. And I think the world is going more and more into gambling, investing, whatever you want to call it. And I think Coinbase is going to be the leader of that.
Yeah, great points there. Just a quick follow-up to that, and a quick follow-up point to that would just be to be a $1 trillion company, I think you need 3 things. You need just sort of on like the very front of mind stuff. You need an incredible B2C product, which Coinbase has. You need B2B, which they have with Coinbase Prime, just to name one of the many sort of legs they have.
Yeah.
And you need some ties with the government. Like you just sort of do to get to that level. It's very difficult to not. Coinbase is the leader. Like when you think of American crypto, you literally think of what, like maybe Coinbase and maybe Circle.
Correct.
Like no offense to the XRP folks, but like, it's just, it's not, no one uses it. Like it's really Coinbase. And on the B2B side, Coinbase Prime is friggin' massive. I think they have the lead for institutional custody by a country mile. Like every single, the ETFs, all the biggest stakers, everyone, they're all using Coinbase Prime. So
Coinbase custodies something like 400 billion in crypto assets.
Insane.
It's like
it's wild.
15% of all of crypto.
The market,
right?
Yeah.
And so the other big thing, so that's a great point you said about the different types of products. The other thing I would say is like you need network effects. Like you need to be a platform if you're going to get that big, right? Where others build on you and others rely on you, which is exactly what they're doing with Base. And so they're establishing that already. But they're also a platform for institutions because they have trust. And in the financial world, you need trust. And no one has that more in this space than Coinbase. Like Binance is 10x bigger than Coinbase, but they don't necessarily have trust in Europe or in the US, whereas Coinbase does. And so I think that goes a long way. When you look at Michael Saylor, who custodies his Bitcoin? It's Coinbase.
Yeah.
BlackRock, who custodies their Bitcoin? It's
It's
Coinbase,
Coinbase.
right? It's like
Yeah.
everyone does. And so that is a network effect and a moat in and of itself. And that's not going to stop. I mean, hopefully they don't get hacked or something, right?
Yeah.
But as
Yeah.
long as that doesn't happen, they keep that trust, they have a moat that is just so hard to get in the financial industry,
100%.
especially in crypto.
We have given a lot of time for base. One last thing here. We won't need to talk about it. I'll just sort of throw it out there. I don't love transacting on base chain present day. I still think Solana is unbeatable when it comes to speed, efficiency, UX. Like a lot of people get onboarded via meme coins. You trade memes on base, it's still a shit show. The onboarding is still a shit show if you're not using it within the native Coinbase app. If you want to do it sort of more on chain per se, it's not fun. It's a nightmare. The bridging, the whole 9 yards. It's a bit of a shit show. So that is one thing that I still think I'm positive that they really need to work on base. I know it's still early. I know they have tons of time, but like they do got to figure that out if they really want to get to the next level there. It's got to happen.
Yeah, I also think that the way that the world comes on chain is not in the way that we use blockchains today.
It's on their phone, on the app.
Exactly. Yeah. Most people aren't going to come and like download a MetaMask wallet and then go connect it into like Pumped Up Fund or like whatever. Like there's a group of us that do it that, there's like a million of us or not even probably. Most of the world will never do that. And that's just never going to happen. And so I think it's going to be the DeFi mullet, which is what Coinbase is already doing with like Morpho. Most people won't go and use Morpho to loan out their Bitcoin, but they will just go do it in the Coinbase app where it's easy. And so I think most of how we use base or how people will use base will be in the Coinbase app, not the other way. So that'll get fixed and abstracted away.
Fair point there. All right, a little tight for time, maybe some rapid fire. AI agents, DeFi, we'll start with AI agents. I'm sure you and I are very similar, Kyle. I am messing around with AI every single day. I think it's going to happen this year. I know there's already a couple companies that are really working on this and are really close, but how pumped are you for AI agents where it's literally an LLM that connects to your wallet and you can literally be like, when Solana hits, it's not like setting market orders and buys on an exchange. It's literally, when Sol hits 120, hammer this. When it hits 125, DCA all the way up. If you see this support level, this resistance level, blah, 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 blah. And furthermore, on top of that, when you literally just say, make me money and go trade. How wild and how pumped are you for that?
Yeah, super pumped about it. Trying to build stuff in that space a ton with Milk Road. And I think building in that space made me realize we're not as close as we think. It can do a lot of things. AI agents now can do a lot of things in terms of like operational things for a company. But in terms of like a forward-facing product, I think we're still a little bit away. It's not far. Like let's say maybe next year we're starting to do it.
Yeah.
But I don't know that's going to happen yet this year. And so I'm bullish on the idea long term, a little bit bearish right now, to be honest.
Why? Why are you bearish right now on them?
The projects that are being built in crypto specifically for AI agents, I don't think are that great. I think that the AI agents that are being built from like OpenAI and et cetera, like from the real AI sector, those are good, but also still not great yet. And so I think it's just going to take a bit of time to get these things good enough where they actually can manage people's money. And I don't think they're there quite yet, but it's coming and it's evolving very, very fast. And so bear short term in terms of like it being actually useful today.
Gotcha.
But I think it's probably coming by like maybe next year.
Quick side note to the whole AI thing. The amount of friends that I have in regular jobs, very smart friends as well, who aren't using AI every day.
That's crazy.
Insane. Like I know some really like higher IQ folks than you and I, like very, very smart people who do not have a ChatGPT or a Grok or Perplex or whatever you want to call it open at all times. I'm just like, how the hell do you, like, what are you guys doing? It's still, that's one thing that I
You still use Google?
I cannot wrap my head around this, Kyle. I really don't get it, but like, I'm sure you know folks like that too. Why is that? Like, I just don't get it.
People just are stuck in their own ways. It's like, why is everyone not on Bitcoin, right? Why do people still not use stablecoins? It's just like, I don't know. And people just are kind of lazy, stuck in their ways. And there's just not much you can do about that, right? But that's also an edge for those who are using it. Like you have superpowers. Like if you use AI right now,
that's true.
That's what I told our whole staff when this all came out years ago. I was like, look, don't be afraid to lose your job. But I'll tell you right now, you will lose your job if you don't use AI, right? You save your job if you use AI because you become a 10x human, right?
Yep.
And I think a lot of people don't quite get that just yet. They're just like, I'm avoiding this thing. I don't like it, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, this stuff is And it's evolving so fast that like if you're not staying on top of it, you're really falling behind in this world.
Yeah, 100%. Rapid fire here. Any hot takes before we let you go? Give me some wild shit you got on the back burner. Like I'm talking high on the burner, flipping, locked and loaded.
Oh God.
Maybe some that only Kyle and the Milk Road team believe in that maybe not a lot of other people do. Perhaps like calling Solana at 20 or Coin at 38, Maker at 900. One of those.
Yeah, what's my big call right now? I think my big call right now, what I'm really bullish on is TIA, Celestia, which is hilarious because everyone hates it.
Yeah.
And everyone hates it because it had this huge run up and then everyone got wrecked. And now it's kind of beaten to the very bottom. And I actually think data availability or blob space, whatever term you want to call it, I know it's a bit on the technical side, but I think that's going to be the next big thing. And so we've been in this world for 15 years about block space. I think block space is about to get commoditized, and now it's all about data availability. And so I think Celestia or TIA is going to have a really big run over the next year as people start to realize how important this is. It's a very nerdy rabbit hole. My researchers really dove into it, and they showed it to me and got me onto it. And now I'm full on, and we're big supporters of it, and we think it's going to be a big thing. It's still probably a bit early because it's a hard thing for people to wrap their heads around, and it's still early days. But as L2s and all these L1s proliferate, I think TIA is going to be the big winner. And right now it was at $20. It's now at like, I don't know, like $3 or something. So like the thing has gotten beat up and a lot of people hate it, which is generally a good time to buy.
What about any of these trendy coins? You had Abstract come out, completely tanked, no volume. No one's doing anything on Abstract. Barachain, which I think is doing also underperforming a ton. Monad's going to come out. I do think Monad has a chance at capturing the hype. Then you have Hyperliquid. Everyone's super bullish on Hyperliquid. I don't see how it's that much different than the current existing solutions. Yeah. Any of these super trendy ones that are out right now that you like long term?
So in the L1 space, not really, to be completely honest. I think Solana and ETH have network effects. They're going to be beasts there. And then I think the way it's going to go is there's no more room for general purpose L1s. Yeah. Which is what all these things are. I think it's app chains moving forward, and it's specific use cases is what you need to look for.
Yeah.
And I'm actually, if I was to say like, what's my hot take or what do I care about more? It's actually OG DeFi, which I know is boring and people hate that. But I think these things have been just cooking for years and years and years. And they are now generating like hundreds of millions of dollars a year, which is wild. And somehow they're only worth like many of them under a billion, which makes no sense when you're generating like 200 million annualized. And they're finally now starting to buy back their tokens. And so like, I think my big unlock is I think institutions are what's really coming. A lot of like institutional capital and smarter capital is coming in, less retail. And I think they're not going to buy a lot of this like dumb stuff. I think they're going to buy things that have real revenues and real product market fit and are buying back their own tokens. And even if institutions don't do that, the protocols themselves are buying back tokens. And so that's kind of where my focus is and what I think is going to be the next big narrative here.
I love it. Kyle, what an episode. This was a blast, man. Pumped to meet you in person. And when I'm back in our beautiful country, we will definitely hit the links this summer, talk some crypto and fire some birdies. Really appreciate you coming on. Before we let you go, can you please let our listeners know where they can find you personally and, of course, Milk Road online and on socials?
Yeah, absolutely. So hit me up on Twitter. I'm very active on there. It's just my name, Kyle Reidhead. Maybe you'll share it in the show notes below instead of spelling it out. And then if you want to subscribe to Milk Road and get all of our investing insights, it's just go to milkroad.com. And then if you happen to work in crypto and you need help with marketing and any aspect of growth, then our agency can help you there. It's impact3.co.
Amazing. Folks, what an episode with Kyle Reidhead, co-owner of Milk Road. We went on an absolute tear. He went on an absolute tear. We touched the current crypto market, the market as a whole, the fat app thesis. Coinbase becoming a $1 trillion company by 2030, L1s, analyzing the business cycle, DeFi, AI agents, you name it. Huge shout out to Kyle and the team for making this happen. If you guys enjoyed this one, I hope you did. Please do subscribe. It would mean the world to my team and I. Speaking to the team, love you guys. Thank you so much for everything. And back to the listeners, keep on growing those bags, go touch some grass, and keep on staying healthy, wealthy, and happy. Love you guys, and we'll see you on the next one. Ciao.